Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, I talk about 4 different types of freedom: time, financial, location, health freedom. In that light, I'm always interviewing entrepreneurs, business owners, people on the cutting edge, changing the world. So today we have Olga, and she dubs herself as a neuroscience nerd. I love when people are authentic. And she is the founder at Meta Coaching. And today's going to be talking all about business, neuroscience, starting a business. And I'm happy to welcome Olga onto the show. Welcome.
Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I know you're based out of Portugal. And so tell us more about yourself, your background, and how you got started.
Okay, so actually, I'm only based out of Portugal for the last half year because we moved from Berlin. And I'm Russian by birth, but for the last 13 years, I lived in Germany mostly, working for Adidas and Wayfair, so big brands, Fortune 500 companies. And it's been quite a cool journey. Until I started to get really strong anxiety attacks. My husband was had a burnout, and we just really struggled in that environment. Very high pressure. We had one child already, and we tried to get the second one, and we were trying to get pregnant for 2 years, and we couldn't just because of stress and constantly getting sick on vacations and stuff. So yeah, we kind of were looking for a way out, or actually I was not even looking for a way out. It just happened for me because after a certain business trip, I came back and I picked up my little one from the daycare, and she was basically punching me in the face and saying that home is shit and she doesn't want to go home. And that for me was okay, I want to walk out of this space, but I have no freaking idea what else I can do. So that was the start of the journey.
A lot of because with COVID, a lot of people are burned out, and mental health is huge. And so so it's quite an interesting journey. Tell us more about, for example, so you help first-time founders grow their businesses from zero to their first 20,000 K without, I assume that's per month, without burning out. And then why do you think it's so difficult for 9-to-5ers to quit corporate and start their own businesses?
Because it's very comfortable space, it's kind of is this fake safety of monthly income coming in. So people are used to it. It's the comfort zone, right? And and if we and it's kind of nothing's gone wrong, right? Because we always talk about the fact that the brain, the human brain, is a survival brain, right? Was never designed to make us happy. It was was designed to for survival. So it's basically, if you never had a business before, if you just always worked in 9-to-5, and imagine in your family as well, right? It's kind of this part of the brain, right? On the side, our hippocampus, it's basically a giant database, right? Of all the experiences we had to date, right? So when we're trying to make a step out, right? That's something new. We haven't done this before. So our hippocampus on the back end kind of trying to match the new action to some old actions we did, right? And if it doesn't find the match, our brain perceives as something dangerous. So it basically tries to sabotage us in all possible ways. And we know it might be uncomfortable to be where we are. It might be taking a toll on our well-being and our mental health, right? But it is known, and known means safe, right? It's like a toddler who doesn't want to change the shit diaper because they're used to sitting in the shit, that's familiar. Something new is I'd rather not go there.
Yeah, it's interesting because the more I think about it, I'm thinking, if you have a 9-to-5, just, and then it's the main thing you have to do is just basically don't get fired. And so basically, you could be mediocre, you could play games and, manipulate this and that. And, you just basically biweekly collect your paycheck, you don't really do much, but which is quite interesting.
Absolutely. And some people realize, that they're A players who are stuck with a bunch of C and D players, and they make a step out. And some people like me, for example, they go in dark places, right? And get this super severe anxiety attacks and start doubting themselves, whether like we are actually, adequate, whether we are good, because like we're proposing all these ideas, right? And like people look at us like, oh no, that's never gonna work. Oh no, this is gonna take like 5 years, like, and nothing is moving, and like nobody actually takes responsibility for like company losing money or whatever. And you think like you're crazy because like you see all these things and you constantly bring them up, right?
It's amazing. It's just I was talking to my wife the other night, and we were just talking, to basically people that stay in corporate are even, usually they have, it's like you said, the A players, they kind of leave or they don't stay around because it's just, but what the other thing is, so people are interested in entrepreneurship. And then, so what do you think, like, for example, how do you find the purpose-driven business idea meaningful, profitable?
Yeah, so like we have like different methodologies, right, of finding this out. But like to be completely honest, like, so it takes like a bit of time to take it out of people, but everybody already has an idea. Everybody already dreams of something, but doesn't consider it to be worthy of, like, or they think that they will never make money with that, right? And like a lot of times people are just embarrassed because, like, I don't know, they work in multinational corporation, right? And they're doing like, I don't know, operations and doing like this, all the like complicated spreadsheets in Excel and whatever, like it's all like funky and it's like very, I don't know, it's like very status-like. And then what they actually want is to cook, and they're like, oh my God, like what my friends will think about me, right? But they take this like great pleasure in cooking, right? And like, and food might be like their love language, and they're serving food like they're serving love to people, right? And it's like, it's so in their DNA. It would be like extremely sad if people never would experience that, right? But people like just not allowing themselves to believe that they can monetize it because they have like a lot of this, like a bunch of limiting beliefs in their head. It's like, oh, but if I'm a cook, then like I have to work 24/7 because that's how it works in hospitality, and stuff like this. So that's kind of like, usually the biggest part is just removing these limiting beliefs and like separating the decision making in different stages. It's like, okay, like first things first, like what do you want, right? And we use like, for example, like we adapted Ikigai. I don't know if you heard about Ikigai. So like as a system to like just to get closer to what this like business idea is, right? And like put all things together, all your passions, what you care for in the world, like what you want to solve, what makes you angry, actually, like when you look around yourself, what like drives you nuts and you like constantly like want to talk about it. Like, what are some things that you do every day that you would be doing anyways, but now people can also pay you money for that, right? So like those things, but generally it's just like giving people allowance to first say, what is it that they want? And then already like the next stage is, instead of rationalizing it away and saying like, oh no, it's never going to work, actually starts like using your brain, like your logical brain in the ways like, okay, what could be all the ways to make it work? Like all the ways right now. So that's basically the process. So like people first have to say, what do they want? And then we help together, like, especially like if we do it in a group, that's like mastermind. So it's many individuals, right? And we can all throw different angles and see like, okay, what are all the ways to really monetize this idea?
Yeah. And it's interesting because, these are skills that you can read about them, but you have to go out in the real world and build these skills. And you talk about the most important skills for first-time entrepreneurs. Can you highlight it and elaborate on what skills they need to develop or start developing?
So the first and only skill they need in the beginning is sales, basically, because like people think like, especially, people who come from corporations, right? That like sometimes multi-billion corporations, like, of course they have everything set up, like they have agencies working for them, like beautiful websites, like whatever, e-commerce sites, like whatever that is, right? Like it's all there, all the systems are in place. But when you're just starting out, especially if you're a solopreneur, you don't need nothing basically, except for like having some sort of offer. Like what do you have? Like some sort of product or some sort of service that you're offering to people, right? And like being able to like actually come up with an offer and like offer it to real life people, right? Like test it first on like real humans, because like they gonna take money out of their purse, right? And like give you cash. So like just being able to like put yourself out there and talk to actual humans, right? And tell them like, I am here, I have this product or service, right? Like, do you want to engage with me? Do you want to buy from me? Because I can help you with the, like a problem that you have, right? Like by solving it, like through my product or through my service. And like, if people are not like, and a lot of times it's like, it's such a scary skill for people, right? Because like people think that like sales is something evil. It's like looking at people as ATMs and like withdrawing cash from them. Like, which is so not true, because like sales can be done from service, from so much desire to help other people, right? And that's why we call it like purpose-driven business, because a lot of times this business ideas, they come through like from living through some experience that was real shit for us, right? And we have a lot of empathy actually for people who are going through the same stuff right now as we were going like some steps behind. And we are here like when we don't even need to be like, I don't know, well-known experts, but we just need to be a couple of steps ahead of someone to give them the hand, right? And bring them on our level right now. So, but being able to like just engage and train and like, and get no's a bunch of times, like actually, like I always think that's like, if you try to sell something to people and you get no's, it's the most valuable answer you can get, because there is so much information if you really like take time to analyze why the hell did you get a no, right? So you can become better over time. But it's the only skill that people really need in the beginning, like as the first stage. Like a bit later, that's changes, right? Because you need systems and everything on the back end, so you don't run yourself into burnout, like by being an entrepreneur now instead of working in corporate. But yes, in the beginning, that's just what I believe is the only thing they need.
Sales and ability, especially marketing and just basically getting out there, getting in front of people, customers, having an offer, valuable offer. This is really, I think it's marketing, sales, and innovation. I think that was Peter Drucker.
Yes. Yeah. And also like this very, very fast feedback loops, like just like go test, like quickly, like take information from real humans, take it back, reiterate, like think like, okay, maybe it's not even the offer, maybe it's the way you talk about it, right? Talk about it in a different way, see what happens. Like do like quick loops, like 3 days, like 5 days, bring it back, reiterate, and again, until you hit the point. Because like, I also believe it makes no sense to, for example, invest in ads, like if you haven't nailed it down, like organically, because then you're just gonna like spend a lot of money and no return on investment. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And then, it's in contrast to the corporate, because corporate, if you fail, you're fired. And, in entrepreneurship, it's like the faster you fail, the closer you get to the product market fit. And, so I love this. And really you have so many tools to allow you to try things much faster, which brings us to the question, because you, we started out with this idea of neuroscience, and you have this neuroscience-based framework to manage stress as a first-time founder, because people get just burned out. And tell us, elaborate.
Okay. So like it's basically it's called energy leadership framework, and it comes from like our coaching school that's we graduated with, like with my husband. It's called IPAC. And like the energy leadership is basically like 7 different levels of energy, and like the first 2 levels are associated with stress, right? And it's called like catabolic levels of energy. And basically like the process of catabolism, like biochemically, is the process when our brain perceives like outside stimuli as stressful, right, as a threat. Like it releases a bunch of hormones in our system. So it releases like adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, right? Like all the nasty hormones in there. And like, what they basically do, like if we really simplify, they start like breaking down the cells in our body to release the energy, right? So like, I don't know, back in the day, we would have this energy to run from the tiger, so like we would need this boost, right? So we would need to break down the cells. And it's like our nervous system, it is perfectly designed for short-term stress. There is no problem for that. But if it continues over time, right, and we like keep breaking down the cells without like restoring them, then of course we go into burnout, right? And the first 2 levels of an energy, they're usually associated. So like level 1 is associated with fear and all the like fear-related emotions, right? So anything which can be like self-doubt, overwhelm, grief, I don't know, like all those like emotions which like make us feel like we want to hide out and we want to go kind of like in a cave, right? And it can be like very serving for us, because sometimes we need to take time to kind of like hibernate and rest, right? And if it is intentional, if we're very aware of that, it can be very helpful. but it stops being helpful when we just procrastinate and we don't move out of that space, right? Like we just like stay in self-doubt, when we stay in fear, when we stay in this perspective like of being a victim to the circumstances around us. And then level 2, like it has much more energy, right? But it's still a catabolic level of energy because like it's more associated with anger and all the anger related emotions, right? And it has much more energy. So it really can propel you out and can propel you out of this like victim mentality as well, right? But the thing with anger is like, it's a really like fast burn. It's like, so like you burn a lot of energy on this like angry emotions, and then nothing is left, right? So you basically go down like on level 1 again. And unfortunately, it's kind of like if we look, for example, at corporate organizations, that's a lot of leaders, they lead from level 2. Okay, go, like had to be done yesterday, like pressure. And it's the same, like, okay, like even if you go out of corporate environment, but for example, like imagine you're like a tech startup founder, right? And you have, I don't know, like seed rounds, you have investment rounds, you have pressure from like venture capitalists, right? So you constantly like operating under this pressure. So if you don't manage your brain and understanding that's okay, like if I'm constantly in this like fear and anger, trying to push myself out and just like push myself, then I just burn energy. And in the end, I just burn out, right? So in order not to stay like kind of like on these 2 levels, there are like other levels like 3 to 7. And level 3 is basically all about taking responsibility for how you feel. So seeing the positive. So, a lot of people describe themselves as positive people when they're on this like level of energy, right? So they're like, well, like my job is shit, but at least the pay is good, right? So like when we hear this, at least from people, it means that they settle in for less than ideal, but they prefer to see the positives rather than the negatives, right? So they take responsibility for their feelings. The problem with this level is that like though really good, so right, it's also this level of resilience when we can like see the positive like outcome and we can like persevere and we can go through. It can be very, very helpful. But when people get stuck on that and the level 1 and 2 go unaddressed because they just prefer not to see the shit, right? Because they're like, oh, like I'm just seeing the positives, like, oh, like I'm love and light, like everything is great. Then like, of course, like this level of stress underneath, it can be just growing, right? Because it's not being addressed. So it's not going away. And that's where like sometimes like then all of a sudden people find themselves in this situation of like a burnout, or they just get stuck in this kind of like more or less comfort zone, this level 3, and they never propel themselves forward. And then level 4 of energy is more the level of being in service, when we are really focused on other people. So, right, like the focus goes away from us, but it goes on someone else. And we are like, we serve and we want to solve somebody's problems, right? Like from compassion. The thing is like, it feels really good on this level, right? Because like we're serving people, like we feel great about ourselves, but we still perceive them as kind of like lesser than us in some sort of way, because like, oh, like I can solve this problem better than they are, or poor them, right? So we kind of like denying them the power of solving the problems themselves. And like also like the energy attracts like energy or the opposite, right? So like if you imagine like if somebody has a lot of problems on level 1 and feels like a victim, and there is a savior on level 4, if you have a lot of this like service energy, then you will attract a lot of people with problems, right? Because like, well, like they need someone to solve them for them. So like the problem is that if you give away too much and constantly, right, at some point you either burn out again, you go on level 1, so out of energy, or you get angry because like, why the hell? Like I'm giving so much, right? And nothing is coming back. So we can get very angry about that, which is again a stress-related emotion. So we're flooding our body with like all the stress-related hormones. Then level 5 is a level of opportunity. So it's like a true win-win. So if level 3 was like a bit of like a compromise, like you move a little, I move a little, right? Like maybe we'll find a way. Level 5 is like, I put what I want on the table, you put your needs on the table, and until we like find a true win-win, we don't play. Like it makes no sense, right? Yeah. So and like on this level, we also take like every experience that happens to us as an opportunity to learn, right? So like we see opportunities. So it's a very opportunistic level. The problem with it is that sometimes we see so many opportunities that we experience this kind of like paralysis by analysis, right? So like we can't get like out of this, like, okay, so like which, like this idea and that idea and this idea and this I could do, right? And we can't decide for which one to go. So that's kind of like the danger of being on that level, because it's very logical. And then level 6 of energy is level of joy or flow. So sometimes like when we do some things and We just think we spent 20 minutes doing that, but it's actually been 2 hours, right? Because like we didn't even notice, like in this state of flow. So very connected to our creativity, to our intuition on this level. And it's great. Like we also feel a lot of synergy of working with other people, right? Because like it's joyful. We also feel a lot of empathy. So like not compassion, like on level 4, but true empathy. So which means that like I understand that as a human being, I can experience all emotions, right? I can experience fear, I can experience anger, I can experience joy, I can experience like, I don't know, sadness, like whatever that is, right? And I am able to see myself in you, right? Because you are also human, so you can also experience all these emotions. So it's level of true empathy. And it's great to be on there. The problem with this level is that it's kind of, you can be very connected to people and feel like, oh, I love everybody, this synergy, like also great. People might be very disconnected from you because like between level 6 and level 1 and 2, for example, is a huge gap. Right. So if somebody's in stress and you are coming in the office, like, hey guys, how you doing? Hey. And people are like, oh, fuck off. I'm just stressed like as hell here. Like, so like, I don't even want to talk to you. So there might be a disconnect. Plus, like in own business, if we are too much on that level, then sometimes we get excited, right? When people get excited about opportunity and they invest a lot of money and then they lose the money because they didn't logically think it through. Mm-hmm. And then level 7, the last one is the level of enlightenment, if you will, is a level of like complete passion about all our experiences when we don't judge things as good or bad anymore. It's just an experience. Even if somebody like passes away that we love, but we're like, oh, it is just an experience in life, and I'm passionate about the fact that I can experience it. And like on this level, we feel like we can create anything and everything in the world, right? Like we are the creators. And no human can actually sustain themselves on that level. Like they can stay there for a bit, but basically like they will be very disconnected from reality, right? That's why we have the other 6 levels. But the thing is also, it's I don't know, like some people like in spirituality, they call it like the higher self. Like I prefer the scientific explanation, like we have the prefrontal cortex here, like in the front of our head, right? And it's this ability of observing ourselves, being the observer of oneself, right? And seeing what is happening to us. And from this level, being able to choose what is serving us the most. Because sometimes, like in our journey, level 2 can be very serving, right? Because we can get angry, we can establish better boundaries, we can be assertive, right? But when we are in control of this level, not when the anger is in control of us, right? And we're like just screaming around. So like it's really this ability to choose what level of energy is serving us the most at that point of time, right? And we basically like kind of like go through these levels with people, like we explain them the framework, right? And we like look at situations from different angles. And we always say that for entrepreneurship, the combination of level 5, 6, and 4. So like this opportunistic thinking, right, or creative thinking, like this ability to be enjoy, to find pleasure in what you do, right, to find synergy in working with other people, plus service mentality is probably the 3 main levels you want to be in more consistently than on others, right? And like consciously like pull yourself out of stress reaction on those ones to operate at your highest potential, basically, not to like kind of like use your own biochemistry to support yourself, right? Not to flood your system with like stress related hormones, but with the feel good hormones, like with your serotonin, like cytokine, I don't know, like with those ones, right?
Really interesting. And, for doctors and, a lot of high income professionals, they range the gamut. I think most of them are usually 1 to level 5, maybe, 6 or 7, it's kind of rare, but, something flavor for everybody. So very interesting. And how can people contact you, visit your website, follow you on social media?
So meta coaching, so meta with double T. So it's the Buddhist meta, not so metacoaching.com, like is our website. Also like is the same name on Instagram, on LinkedIn. So that's quite easy.
Yeah. And for all the listeners out there, let's thank Olga really for almost a masterclass on neuroscience-based framework, managing stress. And she's on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, as well as her website, Meta Coaching. Again, that's with 2 T's, not the Facebook Meta. So with that, thanks so much. And thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you.